Cool. So thanks for coming, everybody. I am really a fan of like continuity in these weekly meetings that we have and all this practice that we do together. So I was just really inspired by last week's talk from Echo Sensei about authenticity. If you weren't here, you can catch it on YouTube, just like all of our Dharma talks. Welcome to Zen 2024. It's pretty cool. Um, Echo gave a really nice talk about authenticity, being authentic. Um, I think he said something like, to see the history of Zen as an exercise in authenticity. I love that. Thousands of years of humans just trying to be more authentic. Every generation getting deeper and deeper into what authenticity is. And yet we still have such a hard time. And as he pointed out, to even really put a finger on when and where I'm inauthentic is so hard. Um, I like the idea of exploring similar themes or aspects of practice from different perspectives. Um, so Echo went over a lot. I'll say some things. Maybe it offers some other things. Um, so I thought the way I wanted to approach authenticity today is as if it were a precept, right? We all know about the 10 grave precepts that we study here in Zen. And there's lots of ways to talk about the precepts. Basically, a very kind of general way to think about it is Buddhist ethical guidelines. They're not rules necessarily. They're more just like, these 10 things are going to come up in your life. How do you practice them? How do you follow them? How do they show up? How do they cause harm? And how do they cause harmony? So the way that we formally study the precepts in our lineage, and if you're in the koan curriculum, after you do the first 450, then you get into the 100 precept koans. And we really look at not only these 10 primary precepts, but like 6 others from a lot of depth and many different angles. And the way we talk about it, the way we lay it out, is that we practice each precept from 3 different angles, I guess you could say. The literal angle, the relational angle, and the intrinsic angle. So the literal angle is when it says not killing, then literally just don't kill. Don't eat meat. Don't kill the spider in your house. Watch where you step so you don't kill a snail after it's been raining. And that's a really powerful practice. And there are certainly a lot of kinds of Buddhism, a lot of different sects and lineages that really just primarily practice that. Just don't kill, don't steal anything, don't have sex, don't lie, don't be greedy, all the 10. I guess I can go through all 10. Don't be intoxicated, don't talk about others' errors and faults, don't elevate yourself and put down others, don't be stingy, don't be angry or don't act out of anger, and then don't speak ill of your life. Those are the 10 precepts. Um, and so from that literal angle, if we take authenticity or being authentic, although I notice when you go through the precepts, it's all about not doing things, not killing, not stealing, not having inappropriate relationships, not lying, and so on. So I guess this precept that we're making up would be not being inauthentic. So from the literal perspective, um, just don't be inauthentic. Be authentic and do everything you can. Practice that. And Echo gave us the wonderful teaching from ChatGPT on how to do that. He used the AI service to, I think, what did you type in? Just how do I be authentic? Or write me something about being authentic. And it gave this really awesome list. Listen deeply to others. Be mindful of your patterns and conditioning. Orient your life and behavior around your passions. I thought that was an interesting one to really stay authentic. Um, and then there's this koan that I love that I won't go through the whole koan, but it ends with a poem. It's such a beautiful poem. This monk says, north of the river, south of the lake, there is gold to fill the entire nation. Beneath the shadowless tree, the communal ferry boat. Up in the crystal palace, there is no one who knows. So that's kind of this beautiful poem that ends the koan. And just quickly, so north of the river, south of the lake is kind of saying everywhere, right? In this particular part of China, that was kind of a way of saying like this entire place, everything, everything. Within it, there is gold to fill the nation. So everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, no matter where you are, essentially, um, it is golden. It is perfect. It is awakened. Um, from one perspective. Um, and then he says, beneath the shadowless tree. Can you imagine if we could live like that, to be a tree, to give, to offer oxygen and life to other beings? It's like The Giving Tree, one of the most beautiful books ever. Trees are just the most giving things on earth. And they do it forever. God, trees live so long. Anyway, and the shadowless tree. So can we be that giving being without leaving a trace, without having a sense that it's me doing it, right? So it's kind of pointing to that selflessness, which, as the Giving Tree, the book shows us, that was a very selfless tree. So underneath that selfless giving tree, the communal ferry boat, pointing to the fact that we are all, in fact, one. We're all in this one boat. And in fact, we are the boat and the water. And then he says, up in the crystal palace, there is no one who knows. And this crystal palace is always with me because to me, that is an expression of authenticity. This literal, just be open, totally transparent, right? A crystal palace is like totally see-through. There's no doors, there's no drywall, there's no paint. Totally transparent, completely authentic. And this nobody knowing is, again, this kind of selflessness, this letting go, the first tenet of not knowing. And man, when I really committed to investigating this crystal palace, nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to harbor, just be totally crystal and open. That was a huge shift for me because at that time I felt like there was a lot that I was hiding and a lot that I was ashamed of. And to have that freedom of like, I have nothing to hide. Oh my God. So liberating. So, yeah, in that sense, authenticity, committing to authenticity can be extremely liberating. Huge relief. So, yeah, that's a really important practice. Whether you're doing koans or chat GPT, just be authentic at all times. And what would that mean? So, yeah, that's the first way that we see the precepts. Then the second perspective or angle towards the precepts is the relational practice of the precepts. And in the relational practice, we realize that things are sticky, things are impermanent, and to hold strong and to stick to any one thing goes against the Tao, goes against the impermanent nature of the universe, right? So when I'm at my friend's house and they make me um, goopy fettuccine alfredo that tastes like powdered cheese, and they say, "How is it?" I say, "Amazing. Thank you so much. It's so nice of you." And so, yeah, I think we all know that. If your family is starving, then you steal the bread if you're in poverty. If your 100-year-old cottages are getting eaten by termites, then you tent it and you kill everything that's living in there. Um, so obviously this relational is like, sometimes you do kill. Sometimes you have to talk about others' errors and faults. Sometimes you have to act out of anger. Yasutani Roshi, in his write-up of the precept koans, he uses the example of children. If your kids go play on the bridge, even though you told them that the bridge is rickety and they're going to fall, you get mad at them. You show them anger to protect them. Um, I also thought in the spirit of continuity, a few weeks ago we had a workshop by Fresh Lev on dismantling microaggressions. And he presented this PowerPoint that pointed to microaggressions as mosquito bites, right? So, yeah, one little microaggression like, oh, um, the popular one is, oh, your hair is so interesting. And so, yeah, one little mosquito bite is not a big deal, but to really realize that there are a lot of marginalized folks in our society who are getting bit by mosquitoes all day, everywhere they go. It starts to change and show how damaging those little tiny microaggressions actually can be. If you're covered in mosquito bites all day, that's a problem. So in that case, as far as our authenticity precept, in that case, maybe it's not good to be authentic, right? Authentically, I want to be like, oh, I love your Malcolm X shirt. Or, gosh, um, it's so great that you were able to, make it across the border. I don't know, all these really subtle ways that we may think we're being complimentary or, it's just trying to authentically connect with someone. The more we learn about that, the more we learn, hey, maybe keep your mouth shut. Maybe be inauthentic for that moment. And Echo actually touched on that last week. He said, authenticity does not mean telling your truth all the time, even when it feels authentic, even when it feels real. So yeah, this relational approach to precepts, being appropriate in every moment, And so sometimes we have to be inauthentic. We did that exercise last week of like, think of a time when you were inauthentic. And a lot of the times that I was thinking of, I actually thought it was a good move to be inauthentic in those moments. So that's the relational aspect of authenticity or not being inauthentic. And then the third angle that we study the precepts with is the intrinsic, right? So we have literal, where you just follow the rule. And then we have the relational, where we're able to use our wisdom and our freedom and our flexibility to be appropriate to the moment. And then this intrinsic aspect of the precepts is possibly the hardest one to see. But I think really it points to, and I was very grateful that Echo did point to this as well last week, the intrinsic fact, the essential, natural fact that any of these concepts, killing, stealing, sex, lying, authenticity, they're just concepts. They don't really exist. If you are a shadowless tree, if you really see what it means that you don't have any shadow, I am not a thing, to really be in touch with that, then the notion of authentic versus inauthentic is just ridiculous. It's completely existing in a dualistic space. Authentic, inauthentic, good, bad, alive, not alive. Bodhidharma, who is one of the major icons in Buddhist history, he wrote his version of the precepts that really points to this intrinsic aspect. And so I'll just take the first one from Bodhidharma's one mind precepts. He says, this is his expression of the first precept of not killing. He says, self-nature is inconceivably wondrous. In the everlasting Dharma, not raising the view of extinction is called not killing. Not raising the view of extinction is called not killing. Right? It's so subtle, but it's also so clear. He's not saying don't kill the spider. He's saying to even think that there's such a thing as alive and dead transgresses the everlasting Dharma, transgresses the fact of oneness. Right? We love to say oneness. Oneness feels good. We're all interconnected, right? We can use those words to feel love and connected. But if we really look at what oneness means, it means that nothing goes away. There's no birth and death. There's no here and there. There's no before and after. It's all just this one thing right now. And so to even have the thought of dying is just inaccurate. Same with living, being born, just concepts. So yeah, like Echo said, from that perspective, there's no such thing as authenticity. Totally just a delusional concept, essentially. So one way to say that is there is no authenticity. But another way to look at that, which I think is kind of synonymous, is that everything is authentic. I think that's saying the same thing. You can't not be authentic. And you can even see that from like, if I think about Donald Trump, um, not that we're making any political statements here. We are a religious institution and we are totally open to all perspectives. But um, this particular gentleman made claims that there was a stolen election. And all of his own DOJ and his own lawyers and his own judges proved that there was no stolen election. Um, so just to say that that might seem like an inauthentic statement. This election was stolen from me. Pretty much as inauthentic as it gets. But it is an authentic expression of his madness, his greed, his hangups, his pain, his inability to let go. So is that inauthenticity or is that authenticity? Um, when we really look, and that's what Zazen is for, right? Zazen meditation allows us to investigate our lives and really look as deeply as possible into our behavior, our thoughts, our relationships. And yeah, I mean, it's like Echo said last week, I have such a hard time finding where I'm inauthentic. Because when you really look at it, it's like, oh man, I kind of lied to that person about, you know, how great I thought their presentation was. That was inauthentic of me. But then if you look at it, well, that was actually an authentic desire to connect with them, an authentic desire to uplift and encourage them. So yeah, whenever we get into these dualisms of our life, be it authenticity or patience or good or bad or positive, negative, all these dualistic things that we engage in, if we really start to dissect them, the lines get blurred. Masculine, feminine, helpful, um, not helpful. That's a big one. So many times I think I'm helping people. I think I say something that's helpful. I think I do something that's helpful. But who knows? Maybe that's enabling. Maybe that's, you know, diverting them from doing what they actually need to be doing. So, yeah, in a way, it's impossible to be authentic. And at the same time, everything we do is completely authentic. And so I think that's kind of a nice way of seeing this intrinsic aspect of not being inauthentic. So, yeah, I liked looking at authenticity in this way, but it's also just kind of like one example. And as I've been thinking about this talk, I realized you can apply it to anything. You can apply it to love, you can apply it to harmony, you can apply it to ambition, all these different aspects of our personality and our path and our karma. You can look at all of them from this literal, relational, and intrinsic perspective. And that's the important part to me. Authenticity is just one really great example, but my practice and my life is about being able to weave in and out, right? Do you see is that like coming through the weaving nature of this, right? Like being able to say just this, just do that, but also don't do that. But also it kind of doesn't matter because there's no that there. um, and that's really, to me, the Buddha way of not sticking anywhere. It's like a favorite Zen teacher phrase is don't get stuck. Don't get stuck anywhere. Have that freedom. Taste that, taste that shadowless tree and realize that you are free, essentially, to be able to move in and out of anything. And the only way I really know how to do that in any kind of sustainable way is through lots and lots of zazen and koans. You know, I like the koans. They've helped me a lot to really investigate this stuff. Um, so yeah, as always, I encourage us all to just, and it's amazing, like it's kind of magic. Why would just sitting here on the floor counting my breath allow me to have this very multidimensional view of authenticity? How do those two have to do with each other? And I just don't know. I just don't know. That's where the faith part comes in. We talk about faith a lot in Zen practice because, yeah, somehow just coming here, committing to counting my breath, observing what goes on in my body, mind, heart, things open up. And I just become freer, more weaving in and out of things. I don't know why it works. I don't know how it works, but I know that when we do it together, it works. It does. It does. And so thanks for coming. And I hope that we all can continue to help each other weave in and out of this communal ferry boat together.